It's been a major setback for Google. A US court has upheld that Google has violated the US antitrust law with its search business, the SEO business. Now, this is a staggering defeat for Google in the court. For those laypersons who don't really understand what it means, trouble is essentially mounting for the search giant. But what are the larger implications of what has happened in the US court? What does it mean for you and me? And more importantly, what does it mean for a freer, more equitable online marketplace? The ruling by a judge, Amit Mehta of the US District Court of Columbia, was delivered in this antitrust lawsuit that was filed by the Justice Department and other states against Google back in 2020. The trial took place in September last year and went on for around 10 weeks. Sundar Pichai, others were also deposed. The US District Court has ruled that Google's dominant market share, fortified by barriers to entry, easily establishes its monopoly power in online search. Essentially, the giant has been accused of creating a monopoly as far as online search is concerned. While the penalties that Google will face are yet to be determined, there is of course an impending appeal. Google could perhaps appeal, they most definitely will, and therefore it could take months or even years for any potential consequences to actually play out for Google. But the ruling could ultimately impact how Google makes its search engine available to users like you and me, and also Google's ability to make these pricey, exclusive deals with device makers and online service providers. All of that will also be impacted. Apple is likely to be impacted in a big way as well. So like I said, we'll decode what has happened in this antitrust lawsuit. We'll decode the setback to Google and how it has been ruled as a monopolist. Joining us, Amit Dubey, cybersecurity expert, and Esna Pinai. She's been with us on several shows, founder of Cybersathi Foundation, also an advocate of the Supreme Court, and Khushbu Jain, cyber law expert as well. Thank you all very much for being with us. I want to begin by asking you, Ms. Napinai, just simplify and break down for the benefit of our viewers, what does this verdict in the US court mean?
Very simply put, we have antitrust laws or anti-competition laws, which does not stop a corporate from building a good business or making profits. What the law merely restricts is that you should not use your dominant position to suppress competition. You should not indulge in monopolistic practices. And this is in brief what the laws across the world restrain when it comes to antitrust laws. So when we are talking about the current Google case, effectively, we have had many antitrust decisions against Google, including from India. But this decision gains importance coming from the US, which is a laissez-faire economy, which encourages businesses. But in the US, if you see, for a long period of time, the judicial department has been against big tech creating monopolies because of its size. And one of the most critical narratives that has come about is breaking up of big tech.
Yes.
And this case is likely to also possibly revisit that narrative.
All right. Amit Dubey, I'll ask you this question as well. Does this verdict in a certain sense, and like I said, in my brief introduction as well, that we don't necessarily know the timelines on when penalties will happen or if anything will change in the immediate sort of, time frame. But, does this verdict in a certain sense go a long way in altering the online marketplace for users who want to, perhaps advertise online, etc.? Does it make it a more equitable sort of a marketplace now?
So definitely it will open up many debates which has been there since long time, but because of this monopoly, nobody was talking about. But this decision will change this perception.
Okay.
And how this monopoly was achieved. If you see what judge has mentioned, he has clarified this monopoly was achieved through strategic tie-up with Apple and Samsung. And this making Google Chrome as an integral part of all these devices, though Apple has capability to build their own search engine, but they never did it. Because they were getting enough license fees, which was motivating them enough to not start their own search engine. So this was in a strategic association with all other such players, those could come up as a search engine OEM, but they never did so.
Yes.
And they supported Google to achieve this monopoly. And now, because of that monopoly, some strategic advertisement algorithms are actually can only be executed through Google. For example,
Yes.
text-based advertisement, and many such algorithms, those were very, very specific to search engines, can only be used by Google. So this is something which is actually hampering the democratization of internet, and it will also hamper the Web 3.0 concept, which we feel should be more democratic in nature, and each and everyone should be allowed to equally participate, to contribute.
It's interesting.
Whether it is
It's interesting, Mr. Dubey, that you talk about the democratization of the online market. I also want to ask you how this will impact pricing.
See, definitely. See, because there is only Google who could do such kind of advertisement. The
Yes.
pricing is also biased, and you were not able to go to any other player because of 95% market capture by Google right now.
Yes.
In search engines. So I think this is something which is among us, and this cannot be challenged. The buyers do not have any option. And if they want themselves to be showcased,
if you want to
on search
advertise
engines,
in the online marketplace, Google pretty much is the one-stop shop, at the moment, because that is the most.
You can see their yearly earning depends mostly on Google searches. And that is something which is close to, I think, 37 to 38%, which is
Yes.
huge in terms
Yes.
of their entire earnings. So I'm sure because of this monopoly, they were able to achieve it. And this pricing will also be questioned by judge later on, that how do they decide it, and how it is actually working out in terms of execution.
Khushbu Jain, explain for the benefit of our viewers the global impact of what has happened in this verdict.
See, this decision, if you look into, this will be seen as one of the major blow on Google, which will, in a way, will have an impact on all other big tech giants, where there are numerous cases pending against those big tech giants in other countries, including India as well.
Yes.
So this will bring in that aspect of importance of antitrust law, and how people are more important than the big tech, and how this monopoly is being created by big tech, and how countries and regulators are standing against these big tech giants so that they don't create this monopolistic situation. Now, how it will impact the whole world, if you look into these search engines practically were involved in creating, apart from, having a monopolistic search engine themselves, that it became a synonym. The word Google became synonym with search. You say Google it, don't search it, but
Yes.
Google it. So apart from this, there was a secondary aspect of it, which comes on when it comes to advertisement, when it comes to listing your products on these platforms. So these kind of practices were the one where they used to earn a lot. Apart from, that's where their earning model comes. So if you'll see those pricing knobs as to squashing, increasing the price artificially, or making it a first bidder, that whoever bids the highest are the one to do. So these artificial pricing, or the format pricing, which was there, extra charges for additional text, which was introduced in 2017 by Google. So if you look into this entire auctioning, randomly swapping all those scores
Yes.
and auctions, the Indian case, which was there when it comes to matrimony, that you have your own subsidiaries or your own companies where you have investments are the one which will come in the top search engines, and are the one which will be visible. So in a way, hurting other companies and not making sure that organically everybody grows. So these kind of practices are gonna hit by this, and that's where I think we are still waiting that what exactly are the measures, corrective measures, which will be put up by the judge in this matter. But if you'll see that these are the things which will create a scenario that there is a healthy competition and there is no monopoly by these tech giants, including Google, and this will be set as a precedent for others as well, including Meta and all other Apple and other tech giants.
That was going to be my question to you, Ms. Napina, if you can just come in very briefly and also explain how this is going to impact the larger narrative around big tech firms, which like this lawsuit in a certain sense has made Google seem like this big bad bully. It's really come out like that. So it does in a certain sense bust that entire narrative of being that big bad bully, saying they've been held accountable in the court. It's a huge setback. They've been ruled as a monopolist. Some very scathing observations have actually been made in that US court. But what does this mean for big tech in general?
Yeah, see, I would like to lead with this clarification that when we were preparing for this show, did we all not use Google to search for
Of course we
information?
did. I
So,
did for
we
sure.
must absolutely. So we cannot countenance the fact that this is a very important resource for us. And in a way, the case decision also recognizes this. It commends the fact that Google has an excellent search engine, but also qualifies that merely because your product is good, it does not allow you to indulge in monopolistic practices.
Well, absolutely. They've
see
spent
this is a-
billions. They've spent billions of dollars to create this kind of monopoly. Like what Khushbu said, the fact that searching for something is literally synonymous now. Googling something is synonymous for searching with something. Millions and billions of dollars have been spent in making that happen, which has essentially thwarted anybody else from making it happen.
True. And if you're doing it by being the best in the market, then no law stops you from being that. But when you indulge in practices which actually suppress others, that's when the antitrust law comes into play. So let's just look at it from simple user perspective, you and I. How many times have we been fraught with angst because we buy a smartphone which comes already preloaded with so many apps which we do not want or need, and which are invariably probably violating our privacy unless we consciously go and block
Delete or
certain
block them.
accesses,
Yes.
right? So this is the kind of impact we are like to have as users, that we will be given the right to choose what we want to download. From a big tech perspective, I think this is kind of like the reminder for them to balance their right to profits with the rights of users to choice.
All right. Well, will it really impact you and me in a big way? One doesn't really know, but it'll definitely impact competitors who perhaps haven't been able to grow, in a market that has largely been dominated by Google so far. And if they dominate because of the fact that they are the best and fastest search engine, be that as it may, but let at least somebody else get a fighting chance. So thank you all very much for joining us. It's been a fascinating conversation, and of course, a very fascinating case to track over the course of the last 3-4 years as it's played out in the United States. That's all the time we have.